I still remember the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead in that sterile conference room. My hands were shaking slightly as I sat across from Marcus Blackwell, CEO of Platinum Motors. For 3 straight years, I'd been their top performer, consistently closing over $1 million in quarterly sales while my colleagues struggled to hit $300K. "Sarah, we need to talk about your attitude problem," Marcus said, his voice dripping with false concern. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just last week I'd closed a $1.2 million quarter, my best yet, but I knew this wasn't really about my performance. It was about what I'd discovered 2 weeks ago. The elderly customer, Mrs. Chen, confused about her trade-in value being inflated by $15,000. When I dug deeper, I found a pattern. Marcus had been cooking the books, inflating trade-in values for his wealthy golf buddies and pocketing the difference through a shell company his wife conveniently owned. The room felt smaller as Marcus leaned forward. "Your declining performance and toxic attitude are affecting team morale." I opened my mouth to defend myself with actual numbers, but he cut me off sharply. "You're fired for insubordination and failure to meet company standards." The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in that room knew it was complete garbage. My sales numbers were posted on the wall behind Marcus, $1.2 million for Q3, nearly double anyone else's performance. But nobody dared speak up. Marcus ruled through fear, and everyone knew crossing him meant career suicide. "Security will escort you out," he continued, his voice cold and mechanical. I tried to grab my personal notebook from the table, filled with my own client notes and contact information I'd built over years. "She's stealing company secrets," Marcus announced loudly, making sure everyone heard. 2 security guards appeared at my sides, like I was some kind of criminal. As they walked me through the showroom, past the gleaming Bentleys and Rolls-Royces I'd sold dozens of, I felt every eye on me. Some looked sympathetic, others confused. A few of my regular clients were there, and I saw their shocked faces as I was paraded out. The worst part? I had to leave behind 3 years of relationship building, client trust, and the reputation I'd earned as the dealership's top closer. Or so I thought. Back in my apartment, the reality hit me like a truck. I sat on my couch, still in my business suit, replaying Marcus's words. Attitude problem. Declining performance. The lies echoed in my head. I'd given that place everything. Weekends, holidays, late nights, building relationships with high-net-worth clients who trusted me with 6-figure purchases. But then, the real reason crystallized. Mrs. Chen's confused face when she showed me the paperwork. The trade-in value that didn't match market rates. The shell company registration I'd accidentally seen on Marcus's desk. He knew I'd figured out his fraud scheme. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone, but something made me answer. "Ms. Martinez? This is David Chen, owner of Elite Auto Group. I think we should talk." My heart stopped. Elite Auto Group wasn't just any competitor. They were the luxury powerhouse that had been systematically eating into Platinum Motors' market share for the past 2 years. Everyone in Dallas knew David Chen's reputation as a straight-shooter businessman who treated his people right. "Mr. Chen, how did you get my number?" I managed to ask, still processing the shock. "Word travels fast in our industry, Sarah, especially when the top performer at a major dealership suddenly gets fired." His voice was calm, professional, but I detected something else. Genuine interest. "I've been watching Platinum's numbers for years. Someone there was consistently closing $1-million quarters, but Marcus always took credit at industry events." This was news to me. Marcus had been claiming my sales success as his own. "I'd like to meet with you," David continued. "My top salesperson just relocated to California, and I've been looking for someone with your track record. Would you be available for dinner tomorrow?" "I'm flying down to Dallas specifically to meet you." I looked around my small apartment, still wearing the same clothes I'd been humiliated in hours earlier. 24 hours ago, I was the queen of luxury car sales. Now I was unemployed, blacklisted, and apparently famous for all the wrong reasons. "Mr. Chen, I appreciate the call, but I should mention, Marcus will probably spread lies about why I was terminated." "Sarah," he said quietly, "I didn't call you because of what Marcus said. I called you despite it." The next evening, I found myself at the most exclusive restaurant in downtown Dallas. sitting across from David Chen in a private dining room that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with the quiet confidence that comes from building something real. "Let me be direct," he said after we'd ordered. "I'm not just offering you a job. I'm offering you a partnership. Base salary double what Marcus paid you, commission structure that'll earn you $300K annually, and your own sales team to manage." I nearly choked on my wine. "That's very generous, but—" "There's more." He leaned forward. "A $50,000 signing bonus if you can prove Marcus was lying about his dealership sales numbers. I have reasons to believe he's been taking credit for work he didn't do." My mind raced. I'd kept meticulous records of my own performance, commission statements, client correspondence, everything. It was all perfectly legal documentation of my own work. "Mr. Chen, I can prove the sales numbers, but I think there's something bigger you should know about Marcus." He raised an eyebrow. "What if I told you he's been running a fraud scheme through fake trade-in valuations?" David's expression shifted from curious to deadly serious. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, I laid out what I'd discovered. The inflated trade-ins, the shell company tied to Marcus's wife, the systematic overcharging of elderly clients. David listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes on his phone. "Sarah, what you're describing isn't just unethical, it's criminal fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, elder abuse." He paused, studying my face. "How long have you known about this?" 2 weeks. That's why he really fired me. He knew I'd figured it out." David was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just found the missing piece of a puzzle. "I need to tell you something. I've been investigating Marcus for 3 months through a private detective. Several of our mutual clients complained about being overcharged at Platinum Motors. Strange coincidences, inflated values, pressure tactics, but we needed an inside witness." The room suddenly felt very small. "You mean, I didn't just want to hire you for your sales skills, Sarah, though those are impressive. I wanted you because you might be the key to bringing down a fraud operation that's been stealing from customers for years." "What are you proposing?" I asked, though I was pretty sure I already knew. "Join Elite Auto Group, legitimately rebuild your client relationships through proper channels, and help us expose Marcus legally, publicly, and permanently." David's voice was steady, but I could see the fire in his eyes. "We do this by the book. No stolen data, no illegal tactics, just truth, evidence, and better business." I thought about Mrs. Chen's confused face, about all the other elderly customers who might have been scammed, about my former colleagues still trapped under Marcus's toxic leadership. "What's the timeline?" "Phase 1 starts immediately. You begin reaching out to your former clients through your personal relationships, not stolen company data. We host VIP appreciation events, wine tastings, exclusive previews. Let them know you've moved to Elite." I nodded. I'd built those relationships personally over years. They trusted me, not Platinum Motors. Phase 2 happens at the Texas Luxury Auto Dealers Annual Gala next month. I publicly announce you as our new sales director and mention your track record. When Marcus inevitably tries to claim credit, you'll be ready with documentation. And Phase 3? David's smile was grim. "Anonymous tip to the State Automotive Licensing Board, backed by evidence you legally obtained. Let justice take its course." I started the next Monday. Elite Auto Group's showroom was everything Platinum Motors pretended to be. Elegant, professional, and honest. No pressure tactics, no hidden fees, no lies to customers. Within my first week, I was already reaching out to former clients through my personal network. The response was incredible. Mrs. Jai Patterson, who'd bought 3 Bentleys through me, was thrilled to hear from me. "Sarah, I've been calling Platinum asking for you specifically. They said you'd retired, but you're so young." Retired? I was 32 years old. Mr. Rodriguez, who'd purchased a Rolls-Royce Phantom last year, was even more direct. "That place has gone downhill since you left. The new guy they assigned me doesn't know anything about the brand history I care about." By the end of week 2, I'd personally invited 47 former clients to Elite's monthly VIP appreciation event. It wasn't a sales pitch, just wine, cheese, and catching up with people I genuinely cared about. The night of the event, 31 people showed up. In luxury car sales, that's like striking oil. These weren't just any customers, they were the high-net-worth individuals who bought multiple vehicles and referred their wealthy friends. By week 6, I'd closed $800,000 in sales, mostly to people who would have bought from Platinum Motors if I'd still been there. The beautiful part? Every sale was completely legitimate, based on relationships I'd built over years of honest service. Marcus was panicking. I knew because 3 of my former colleagues had texted me privately, saying he'd been calling my old clients directly with increasingly desperate offers. Sketchy financing deals, unrealistic trade-in values, pressure tactics that were pushing customers away instead of bringing them in. "He's digging his own grave," David observed when I updated him. "Desperate people make mistakes." Those mistakes were piling up. One client forwarded me an email Marcus had sent, offering a trade-in value so inflated it was obviously fraudulent. Another client mentioned being pressured to sign paperwork before the deal expired. Classic high-pressure tactics that legitimate dealers avoid. David's private investigator was documenting everything. Every sketchy offer, every inflated trade-in, every desperate attempt to retain clients was being recorded and cross-referenced with existing evidence. "He's making our case for us," I told David. "The more desperate he gets, the more evidence he creates." Perfect, because next week is the gala. The Texas Luxury Auto Dealers' annual gala was the industry's biggest event. Every major dealer, manufacturer representative, and automotive journalist would be there. It was where reputations were made and destroyed, deals were announced, and industry politics played out in public. I'd attended the previous 3 years as Platinum's top performer, though Marcus always made sure he was the one giving speeches and taking credit. This year would be different. David had arranged for me to sit at the head table as Elite's new sales director. The announcement would come during the awards portion of the evening, right after the industry performance statistics were presented. Perfect timing. "Remember," David coached me the day before, "bring your commission statements. All 3 years' worth. Make sure they're organized by quarter and easily readable." I'd prepared a folder with everything: my W-2s, commission checks, client testimonials, sales records, undeniable proof of who had actually been generating those million-dollar quarters at Platinum Motors. "What if he doesn't take the bait?" I asked. David smiled. "Sarah, you know Marcus better than I do. When has he ever let someone else take credit for success?" The gala was held at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Dallas. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and filled with the most powerful people in Texas automotive sales. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought for the occasion, professional, confident, and ready for battle. David's announcement came exactly as planned. After the industry statistics were presented, showing Elite Auto Group's impressive 40% growth over the past year, he took the microphone. "I'm proud to introduce our new sales director, Sarah Martinez, who brings with her an unprecedented track record of exceeding $1 million in quarterly sales for 3 consecutive years." The applause was thunderous. Everyone in the industry knew those numbers were incredible. $1 million quarters were rare. 3 years of consistent $1 million quarters was legendary. But as the applause died down, I saw Marcus rising from his table across the room. His face was red, his jaw clenched. This was it. "That's my dealership success she's taking credit for," he shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I built those client relationships. Those were my sales strategies." The room went completely silent. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned to Marcus, then to me. I stood up slowly, calmly, and walked to the microphone. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. "Marcus, I'd be happy to discuss our respective contributions to those sales numbers." I paused, looking directly at him across the crowded ballroom. "Shall we compare commission statements?" The gasps were audible. In the car business, commission statements don't lie. They show exactly who sold what, when, and for how much. They're the ultimate proof of performance. Marcus's face went from red to pale. He looked around the room, realizing he'd just challenged someone to provide documentation he couldn't match. This is inappropriate," he stammered. "You're right," I said calmly. "It is inappropriate to claim credit for someone else's work, especially in front of our entire industry." I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. I have 3 years of commission statements, client testimonials, and sales records right here. Would you like to compare them with yours?" Marcus sat down without another word. The room remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Then someone started clapping. Then another person. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was applauding. Not for Marcus, but for me. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within hours, video clips of the confrontation were circulating on industry social media. The hashtag commission statements started trending among automotive professionals. Several dealers who'd been at the gala posted their own commentary, praising my professionalism and questioning Marcus's ethics. But the real impact came the next morning. David's phone started ringing at 7 a.m. with calls from journalists, industry analysts, and potential clients who'd heard about the confrontation. "This is bigger than we expected," he told me over coffee. "People are asking questions about Platinum Motors' business practices. The state licensing board has already called asking if we have any additional information to report." That afternoon, an anonymous package was delivered to the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles Licensing Division. It contained detailed documentation of Marcus's fraud scheme, inflated trade-in values, shell company records, client testimonials, and audio recordings I'd legally obtained over the past months. I'd been documenting everything since discovering Mrs. Chen's situation, knowing this day might come. Every suspicious transaction, every inflated value, every conversation where Marcus bragged about outsmarting the system to other dealers. The investigation moved faster than anyone expected. Within a week, state auditors were conducting an unannounced inspection of Platinum Motors records. Marcus tried to lawyer his way out of the investigation, but the paper trail was too clean to deny. Worse for him, several former employees came forward once they realized they wouldn't be retaliated against. Jennifer, who'd worked in financing, provided evidence of falsified loan applications. Mike, from the service department, testified about being pressured to inflate repair estimates for insurance claims. Even Jordan, Marcus's longtime sales manager, eventually cooperated with investigators to avoid his own criminal charges. The best part? 3 of my former colleagues reached out asking if Elite Auto Group was hiring. These were good people who'd been trapped in a toxic environment, afraid to speak up or leave. David was thrilled to interview them. "If they're anything like you, we'll be lucky to have them." Within 2 months, I'd helped place 4 former Platinum employees at Elite. We were building something special, a team based on integrity, performance, and mutual respect. Meanwhile, Marcus's world was collapsing. His dealer license was suspended, pending the criminal investigation. Major manufacturers were reconsidering their franchise agreements with Platinum Motors. His wealthy golf buddies who'd benefited from the fraud scheme were distancing themselves as quickly as possible. 6 months after that humiliating firing, I was sitting in my new BMW M8 competition, purchased with my signing bonus, reviewing the quarterly sales numbers. My team at Elite Auto Group had just closed our biggest quarter ever, $2.8 million in luxury vehicle sales. Marcus's entire dealership had never broken $6 million annually. We'd just done nearly half that in 3 months. But the sweetest moment came when I received a LinkedIn message from Mrs. Chen, the elderly customer whose confusion had started this whole journey. "Dear Sarah, I saw the news about Platinum Motors being investigated. I wanted to thank you for being honest with me about my trade-in value, even though it must have caused you problems. My granddaughter helped me find this message thing on the computer. You saved me from being cheated, and I'll never forget that." That message meant more to me than all the sales awards combined. This wasn't just about revenge or proving a point. It was about protecting vulnerable people from predators like Marcus. I posted a simple update on LinkedIn. 1 year ago, I was fired for underperforming despite closing $1.2 million in Q3 sales. Today, I'm proud to announce that my team at Elite Auto Group just closed our biggest quarter ever, $2.8 million. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being undeniably excellent at what you do. #know your worth, women in sales, justice served. The LinkedIn post exploded overnight. Within 24 hours, it had 50,000 reactions and over 500 comments. People were sharing their own stories of workplace injustice, toxic bosses, and ultimate triumph. Several major business publications reached out for interviews. But the most satisfying part was checking the post analytics. LinkedIn shows you who views your content, and there, buried in the list, was an anonymous profile that I knew had to be Marcus. He'd seen it. He knew exactly how far I'd risen after he tried to bury me. The comments were incredible. Industry colleagues I hadn't heard from in years were congratulating me. Former clients were sharing stories about how I'd helped them make major purchase decisions. Young women in sales were thanking me for showing them it was possible to fight back against discrimination and win. One comment particularly stood out. "This is why we need more women in leadership roles." Sarah Martinez just proved that excellence speaks louder than politics. 3 days later, I received a call from the Texas Association of Women Business Owners. They wanted to nominate me for Texas Businesswoman of the Year. Meanwhile, Marcus's fraud trial was making headlines. Federal charges had been added when investigators discovered he'd been filing false tax returns related to the Shell Company scheme. A year after the gala confrontation, I was invited back as a keynote speaker. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. I was now the success story everyone wanted to hear about, while Marcus was facing federal prison time. Standing at that same podium where I'd challenged him to compare commission statements, I looked out at an audience of automotive professionals who were hanging on every word. Excellence isn't about being perfect, I told them. It's about being authentic, working hard, and never accepting less than your worth. When someone tries to steal your credit, your clients, or your dignity, the best response isn't anger, it's proof. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, dozens of people approached me with their own stories of overcoming workplace injustice, asking for advice, or simply thanking me for speaking up. David, now my business partner as well as my boss, found me after the speech. "You know what the best part of this whole story is?" he asked. "What's that?" "You didn't just get revenge on Marcus. You built something better. You saved other people from being victimized. You created opportunities for good people who were trapped in a bad situation. That's not revenge, that's leadership." 2 years later, Elite Auto Group had become the premier luxury dealership in Dallas, largely due to the culture of integrity we'd built. My sales team consistently outperformed industry averages, not through pressure tactics or fraud, but through genuine relationships and honest service. I'd also started mentoring young women entering the automotive industry, helping them navigate the challenges I'd faced and build careers based on merit rather than politics. Marcus was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $400,000 in restitution to defrauded customers. Platinum Motors went bankrupt 6 months after his conviction. The building now houses a legitimate dealership that treats its employees and customers with respect. But the most meaningful victory came in an unexpected phone call. It was Jennifer, my former colleague who'd provided evidence against Marcus. "Sarah, I wanted you to know, I just got promoted to finance manager at my new dealership. It's the first time in my career I've been judged purely on my performance rather than office politics. Thank you for showing me it was possible to fight back and win." That call reminded me why this whole journey had been worth it. It wasn't about destroying Marcus. It was about proving that integrity and excellence will always triumph over corruption and mediocrity. Today, when young salespeople ask me for advice, I tell them the same thing. Document everything, know your worth, and never let anyone dim your light to make themselves shine brighter. I keep Mrs. Chen's LinkedIn message printed and framed in my office, next to a photo of my sales team celebrating our latest record-breaking quarter. It reminds me that success isn't just about numbers. It's about the people you protect and lift up along the way. Marcus learned the hard way that talent can't be fired, excellence can't be faked, and the truth always finds a way to surface. He thought he was burying me when he had me escorted out of that conference room. He didn't realize he was planting a seed. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well and helping others do the same. Every $1 million quarter, every team member I mentor, every client who trusts me with their business is proof that integrity wins in the end. The moral of my story is simple. Never underestimate someone who knows their worth, especially when they have receipts. And sometimes, getting fired is the best thing that can happen to your career. 5 years after that humiliating morning in Marcus's conference room, I was featured on the cover of Texas Business Magazine as Entrepreneur of the Year. The article detailed how I'd built Elite Auto Group into a $50 million annual business while maintaining the highest customer satisfaction ratings in the industry. But the real validation came from an unexpected source. During a charity auction for underprivileged youth, I was approached by a familiar face, Mrs. Chen's granddaughter, now a recent business school graduate. "Ms. Martinez, my grandmother talks about you all the time. She says you're the reason she learned to stand up for herself with businesses. That lesson changed her life, and mine too. I'm starting my career in sales, and I wanted to thank you for showing us what integrity looks like." Standing there in my evening gown, surrounded by the most successful business leaders in Texas, I realized this was what real success felt like. Not the money, not the recognition, but the knowledge that I'd made a positive difference in people's lives. Marcus was released from prison 6 months ago. Word through industry contacts is that he's working at a small used car lot outside Houston, making minimum wage plus commission. Sometimes justice isn't about punishment, it's about natural consequences. I don't think about him often anymore. My focus is on the future, on the team I'm building, and on the young professionals I'm mentoring. Because that's what true success looks like, not just climbing higher yourself, but bringing others up with you. Last month, I received an invitation that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Harvard Business School wanted me to speak at their annual Women in Business conference about overcoming professional adversity. Standing in that lecture hall, looking out at hundreds of brilliant young women about to enter the business world, I shared the lesson that Marcus unknowingly taught me. Your worth isn't determined by who recognizes it. It's proven by what you do when no one's watching. Document your achievements, I told them. Build genuine relationships. Never compromise your integrity for short-term gains. And remember, when someone tries to steal your thunder, the best response is to create lightning. The applause was thunderous, but more importantly, the questions afterward showed me these young women understood. They weren't just learning business skills, they were learning to value themselves and demand that value from others. One student approached me afterward with tears in her eyes. "My previous internship supervisor took credit for my project. I was afraid to say anything because I needed the recommendation. After hearing your story, I realized I have more power than I thought." 6 months later, she sent me an update. She'd presented her evidence to the university's business ethics board, received a formal apology, and landed a full-time offer with a company that valued her contributions. That's the ripple effect of standing up for yourself. It gives others permission to do the same. Today, Elite Auto Group employs 47 people, including 12 former Platinum Motors employees who found their way to us after Marcus's empire collapsed. We've created a culture where excellence is rewarded, integrity is non-negotiable, and everyone's contributions are recognized. Our success metrics speak for themselves. Highest customer satisfaction ratings in Texas, lowest employee turnover in the industry, and consistent recognition as one of the best places to work in Dallas. But my proudest achievement isn't visible on any spreadsheet. It's the team of professionals who wake up excited to come to work, knowing their efforts will be valued and their integrity protected. Last week, during our quarterly team meeting, Jennifer, the former Platinum finance manager who'd helped expose Marcus's fraud, stood up to address the group. 5 years ago, I was terrified to speak up about corruption because I thought it would end my career. Sarah showed me that staying silent in the face of wrongdoing isn't protecting your career, it's limiting it. Today, I'm proud to work somewhere that my ethics are an asset, not a liability. The room erupted in applause, but I felt something deeper than pride. I felt the satisfaction that comes from building something lasting, something that makes the business world a little bit better for everyone. This morning, I received a text message that made me smile. "Miss Martinez, this is Tommy Chen, Mrs. Chen's great-grandson. I'm starting my first job in automotive sales next week. Grandma says you're the gold standard for how to treat customers right. Any advice?" I thought about Mrs. Chen, now 89 years old, still telling her family about the car saleswoman who chose honesty over profit. Her great-grandson, entering the same industry where his great-grandmother had almost been cheated, was carrying forward a lesson about integrity that would shape his entire career. My reply was simple. Be honest, work hard, and remember that your reputation is built one customer at a time. Your great-grandmother is an amazing woman. Learn from her example of standing up for what's right. That evening, as I locked up the showroom and walked to my car, now a Bentley Continental GT, purchased with honest commissions from satisfied customers, I reflected on the journey that started with my humiliation and led to this moment of quiet satisfaction. Marcus thought he was ending my story when he fired me. He didn't realize he was just finishing the first chapter. The best chapters of my life have been written since then, pages filled with success earned through integrity, relationships built on trust, and victories that lifted others along with me. 6 years after Marcus's public meltdown at the gala, I stood once again at the podium of the Texas Luxury Auto Dealers Annual Gala, this time as the keynote speaker for the entire conference. The theme was Integrity in Business, Building Success That Lasts. Looking out at the audience, I spotted several familiar faces. Former colleagues from my platinum days, now successful at various dealerships. Competitors who'd become collaborators on industry best practices. Young professionals I'd mentored who were now leaders in their own right. 6 years ago, I stood at this very podium defending my integrity against someone who thought his position gave him the right to steal credit and abuse customers, I began. Tonight, I want to talk about what I learned from that experience. Not about revenge, but about resilience. I shared the lessons that failure had taught me, that your reputation is your most valuable asset, that documentation protects both you and your customers, and that excellence is its own reward. But most importantly, I talked about the responsibility that comes with success. When you win, you have an obligation to help others win too. When you overcome adversity, you become a lighthouse for others navigating their own storms. Success isn't just about reaching the top, it's about how many people you help climb up with you. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the real reward came afterward when a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. Miss Martinez, I'm Jessica Rodriguez. 2 years ago, my boss took credit for a major deal I'd closed and got promoted with my work. I heard your story and found the courage to document everything and report it. Yesterday, I was promoted to sales manager at the largest dealership in San Antonio. Looking at Jessica, I saw myself 6 years ago, talented, determined, but lacking the confidence to demand what I deserved. Now she stood tall, holding her head high, ready to pay forward the lesson she'd learned about standing up for herself. What's your advice for someone just starting their leadership journey? She asked. I thought about Marcus, probably struggling to rebuild his reputation at that small used car lot. I thought about my team at Elite Auto Group, thriving in an environment built on mutual respect. I thought about all the young professionals who'd reached out over the years, inspired to demand better for themselves and their customers. Remember that true power isn't about having authority over others, it's about empowering others to succeed. Build people up, not walls. Create opportunities, not obstacles. And never, ever let anyone convince you that you have to choose between being successful and being ethical. As Jessica walked away with renewed confidence, I realized this was my real legacy. Not the sales records or business awards, but the ripple effect of proving that integrity and excellence create lasting success. Marcus thought he was burying me when he had me escorted out of that conference room 6 years ago. He didn't know he was planting a seed that would grow into something bigger than either of us could have imagined. Sometimes the best revenge really is living well and helping others do the same.